Hey, welcome back to another exciting edition of the Midday Q&A. That's right, I'm your host, the Duckman. Oh, we're back today to discuss a couple of things that I've been getting asked repeatedly, and one of the things I've been getting asked is about my magic little pinky here. Why is that pinky so different than the other pinky on my other hand, and as well as the rest of the fingers on that same hand? But we're going to talk about that today. I'm also going to talk about my welding footage that got lost in my video last night, and I mean, you guys didn't ask about that, but it's just, I've got a bit of a rant about it. It's just, it really pisses me off as to what happened there. I mean, I had some really good welding footage of me welding the rear hatch together for my 1956 Volkswagen Beetle that I put in there. It's just disappeared. I don't understand it. It should be in this camera, and it's not there. And the last thing I'd like to talk about is questions I keep getting asked about the rear hatch, and I keep answering them in videos, but I guess I don't answer them all in one place well enough, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit today too. So please, likey, comment, and subscribe. Pluck the little dingle bell you see down there next to the subscribe button. That way you get updates every time I upload a video. Don't forget, all my videos usually go up on Duckman Cycles and VW Garage. That's where I do all my tech stuff. And right here on VV the Duck VV, I do a whole lot of this chatterbox stuff, and I do the follow-up videos, answering questions and behind-the-scenes type stuff, or any of the adventures that get involved in my life. Check out Duckman Cycles VW Garage over on the Facebook group page, and if you'd like to email me, duckmancycles@duckshit.net. Thanks for watching, you guys. We'll be back right after that intro. Go! Well, you probably noticed my voice is still just a little bit scratchy. I mean, I feel, 80-90% better than I did just days ago. Whatever was wrong inside of me with this nasty congestion has finally gone away. I think just whatever's there is whatever's just left and needs to come out. But no longer are my eyes burning, no longer are they running, and no longer does that make my nose run. So, I mean, that's a good thing. And, yeah, that gets me back on my YouTube and active and noisy. I can shout again and make my little sound effects and other crap that you hear. Now that my voice is coming back to life. But the first thing we're going to talk about today is this little pinky of mine. Check it out. I don't have any dysfunction in it. It looks kind of weird, but it works just fine. You see, when I hold an object, it looks just like my other hand does. I mean, you wouldn't even be able to tell unless I lay my hand flat. When I put my hand down on top of a flat object is when it becomes really obvious. And let me show you both my hands together. People, for some reason, always do spot it when I'm working or when I'm out and about or even when I'm out in the field. And they always ask me, what happened to this pinky? And you can see the difference. It looks like it sticks out a little bit, but truthfully it doesn't. It just doesn't like to go straight. So what happens is it's more comfortable for it to ride way out there someplace. But no, it's just as functional as the one that's on my right hand. The only difference is that joint is just a little bit out of place. This one first or second knuckle, I guess it is, it broke. I think I was about 11 years old, and I was playing some kind of handball or something in gym class, and I got shoved and knocked over, and I landed on this side. The ball was in my hand, kind of against my hip, and when I fell over, I landed on my left-hand side, and like I punched the floor or something. I remember there was an intense pain, and then it didn't hurt so bad. And it seemed to work okay. I mean, it wasn't weirdly contorted or anything. It didn't look unusual. In fact, it didn't look unusual for quite some time later. I went home the end of the day after school, and I showed my mom, my pinky's killing me. Would you look at this thing? And she goes, oh, there's nothing you can do about fingers. If we took you to the hospital or to a doctor, they'd just send you home. Well, knowing what I do nowadays, because I busted my pinky toe on that very same foot, you gotta stabilize it. You have to stabilize. Even just giving me a pencil and a roll of tape, I could have probably gotten this finger to go straight. So I have a lasting memory here from my mom. Thanks, Mom. I don't know if you're watching, but thank you. But that's the reason why this pinky isn't straight. And it certainly could have been straightened, but at 11 years old, when you're an ignorant kid, you don't know better. And it really doesn't affect my life, except that people always want to talk about it. But yeah, it holds objects just fine, The left hand's the ball jiggler, and it works just fine for anything that I've ever used it for. Some people said, well, you're going to have some serious arthritis in that thing when you get older. And, you know, I don't have any problems with that. My other fingers actually maybe have a little bit of locking up issues and stuff, but that's only after like a really long day of really hard and strenuous work where I'm doing a lot of grinding and, you know, you're holding that grinder really tight. And the pinky never had a single issue. None at all. All right, well, that's the story of my pinky. Pretty cool, huh? Now, about the rear hatch in my 1956 Volkswagen Beetle. That hatch is not stock. That hatch I actually sourced from a 1973 to 1979 bus, and I believe that one actually came out of a 78. They're all the same year. The hatch is actually a stock part, despite me having cut it up and welded it back together. It's actually stock and rebuilt. So if I need to get another door for it someday, all I have to do is just get another one from a bus and it'll fit right in there. And it did that on purpose. I like the fact that an OEM part will actually fit. But the flange itself also came out of that very same bus, and I cut that whole hatch area out and welded it into place, and you guys watch the videos. But they do not come stock on a 1956 Beetle. However, on a 1956 Beetle, up underneath that rear package area, there is a receiver that's still welded in there, and it's about that big. It's square, and it was intended for Volkswagen to stamp through the rear package area and put a hatch on top of it, which I believe they discontinued in 1953. But despite them stopping the stamping of that hatch and putting an actual door on it, they left the receiving flange underneath. They still continue to put that in there, and it probably was a rigidity thing. It keeps the rear end more rigid. But there's so much corrugation in there that I don't know if that was actually necessary. But in 1956, yes, that relic was still there. But the 56 did not actually have a hatch of its own. Kind of an interesting story. To lead into the next bit that I wanted to discuss was, this is more of a rant of my own, but this camera likes to gobble up my videos. And I don't know why it does it. It's happened about 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 times now. But how the camera works and how most cameras work is that when you hit that 2 gig limit, when you're recording a file, and it hits 2 gigs, it stops on that file and it starts recording a brand new file. And that's normal behavior for most cameras that use a FAT32 storage system in their SD card. And it's a limitation of FAT32. The 2 gig file limit is actually a thing that was done by Microsoft way back in the Windows 95 days when FAT32 first came out. It's just, that was actually a limitation that Microsoft had to pose back in the Windows 95 days when FAT32 first came out. I guess they didn't figure file size would ever go over 2 gigs, you know, but that was almost 20 years ago, so I mean, and you know, we're reaching way back for that one. This camera, for some reason, when I was welding and I did all the prep work, the file's name was 163, and it should have gone to 164 when I was approximately welding, and I lost a section of my prep. It was gone. All the welding was gone. And then 164, which was where I lifted the hatch up and the smoke came out of it, I actually lost the beginning of that because that should have been in that file. And 164 was actually named 163. So a whole file just vanished. And I didn't stop the camera anytime during that. I did not delete a file. And I'm really upset that it's gone. And it just pisses me off that it's gone, and it's irretrievable, irreplaceable, and you can't go back. It's gone. It's gone forever. The hatch is not done being welded yet. I still have to weld the underside of it. I have to weld where the flappy clamps were around the sides. So that still needs to be done too. And I'm going to observe the camera and watch the record. It says right in the middle top of the screen here, you know, REC in red. And I'm going to make sure that it still continues to say that. Some of the suggestions that people have given me that I've read about online is, you know, replace your SD card. Maybe it's corrupting data. And it was corrupting data. There was other files that sometimes they were gone. Or randomly, the numbers of files in between would just be missing. So I pull the card out and I put it into a Windows machine and I do a check disk on it. And all of a sudden the files would reappear. So yeah, the files were getting corrupted on the SD card, so what I did was I replaced the SD card. In fact, I actually went one step above that, and I took a known working SD card out of my GoPro, and I switched it with the one on the camcorder. And the problem stayed with the camcorder. The new SD card was also getting corrupted. It's not as frequent, but it still corrupts it once in a while. And the GoPro is using the old camcorder card and has no problem with it at all. So I think this camcorder is just getting a little, I don't know, a little old, a little weak maybe. It hasn't been used that much. I actually bought this one used to replace the one that I lost a couple years ago. I don't know, it's beyond my guesses on this, but it continues to work most of the time. And it just loses some video clips once in a while. It's always the important ones. It's always the important ones, the ones that I really want to see. And the GoPro, on the other hand, that one likes to lose audio. So I record this wonderful video and it's got no audio in it. And that's happened a bunch of times too. And I discovered as to why that is. It has something to do with the button. When you hit that button on the top of the GoPro to record, and it powers on and records all at once, it apparently doesn't boot up all of its individual pieces of hardware all in the correct sync or timing, and the audio gets lost. How to resolve that is actually turn the camcorder on first, wait, and then hit the record button rather than try to use the all-in-one button, which is just a limitation of GoPro. But I've been using it more for time-lapse anyway, so really the audio doesn't apply too much. And as you noticed, I actually play music over the time-lapse. Or the time-lapse is recording while my camcorder is going. When you have two cameras on one thing, it's a lot harder to lose footage. And that's worked out pretty well for me. So anyways, I think that's enough for today. There's not going to be a tech video tonight unless, I don't know, unless something happens. Because by the time you're watching this, I'm probably in the middle of an install right now. The last install that I have for these restaurants. And it's going to keep me busy for most of the day today. And I've also got the technician that everybody hates that I have to deal with to set this up. So, yeah, we're going to see exactly how this goes down. Now, I haven't talked to this guy before. I don't know what kind of problem it's going to be. But he actually got a couple of formal complaints lodged about him because of his behavior and the way he treats people. But you know what? I'm from New Jersey. And usually I can handle that kind of stuff, or at least I'll give it back. So maybe I'll be shutting him down today. I don't know. It could be fun. I wish I could take my camera and record this kind of stuff, but you know, due to the privacy and everything else of my clients, it's not really a good idea. But you know, at the same time, I'd love to record that conversation. But I may have a story for you tomorrow's Q&A. We'll just see. But thanks for watching. Make sure you clicky that likey. You know, click it with your pinky if you got a special pinky. Hit the subscribe button with it. You know, finger fuck that subscribe button with your magic pinky. If you'd like to email me, duckmancycles@duckshit.net. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.